Hey everyone, so we're going to do a quick polarized versus non-polarized. I actually decided, you guys told me this would be a good video, so we're going to compare specifically the AO Saratoga in the non-polarized version, my preference always, and the polarized version. We're going to talk about a few little things here right off, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about in the difference. These are both green, so you may have noticed it right off the start. That color, there's a pretty noticeable difference even on the camera there. So the polarized here, the non-polarized here. Very start of this, I'm going to say if you're looking for that classic signature green look, you're going to want the non-polarized. But as far as optics and what that amounts to out in the real world, let's dive into that and let's have some fun, because I always love these polarized versus non-polarized videos because I like messing with your heads. Alright, so out in the real world, you guys always talk about wanting to see how the lenses actually look looking through them in the real world, and here is the difference. So because of orientation purposes, we want the polarized lens to be nice and flat, and this was the easiest way to give just a quick once through in each lens. And you'll see, so right here we've got the non-polarized lens being a pain for the camera to focus through just because of the distance. But you can see it darkens things down nicely, adds a really nice little color pop to the trees. There we go. And just overall darkens down, gives a pretty pleasant experience, versus the polarized lens, nice and color neutral, and of course showing a little bit of the fun back of the frame here. And this is why I don't like doing these outside videos. Maybe we'll try this as a voiceover next time. Anyway, for now, there you go. So now you've got the polarized, so you've got that polarization filter in effect. And this is just more for a quick back and forth difference between the two here. And then we'll pull in close and show you each lens. So now directly over the camera we have the Nylon Green with the non-polarized lens to start with, and a big uptick in traffic as I'm trying to talk. So yeah, we'll definitely see about doing this different. Of course, nothing there. And then on to the polarized version. You'll see really out here in the real world, there's not a big difference. Now you'll notice even the reflections on the cars, the windshield it cuts down pretty noticeably, but you know, that's pretty much it. It still doesn't let you see into the car. It doesn't make a huge difference in that regard. On the street, you'll see, you know, no real difference right there even. So the reflected glare is what polarization cuts down on. The biggest thing here is getting a nice dark lens with good crystal clear optics, where you've got a good color that really makes the eyes a little bit more comfortable. And you know, in my opinion, that's going to be the little bit more green one. I've mentioned in some other videos, I don't particularly care for polarization myself, just because you do get that weird effect on windshields, and that doesn't really show up too much on the camera. So that difference you're not going to see here, and that's kind of that wavy, rainbowy type effect you'll see on certain surfaces, usually something that's been heat tempered or hardened to add strength and rigidity. And then back to, real quick, just one more glance around with the Nylon Green without polarization, just to show you're not going to see a huge difference out in the city in particular. So you city dwellers, go for the style, go for the pretty one with the green lenses. So now back in the real world, so you can hear me actually talking, we'll get into a little bit more of the difference in what polarization does for the eyes. Now, even here, you can see there is a very, very noticeable difference between the non-polarized and the polarized lens as far as that color. Now, a little bit of this is the angle, and a little bit of that is the fluorescent lights, and the rest of that is the camera's sensitivity is going to notice that difference more than what your own eyes would. If I wasn't sitting here with this video telling you that these are not as green as you want them to be, you wouldn't believe me. So that aside, back to just polarized versus non. Now this, as I've mentioned, I'm not a huge fan of polarized, but here is where they really take their capabilities and ramp up. And you'll see the reflections here on the wood. I'll be right back, don't worry about that. You can see those are knocked down immensely and instantly, and really, once you get that lens in nice and close, is just a huge difference in the amount of glare you see. And that's why for out on the water where you're gonna be around a lot of reflected surfaces like this little guy right here, it makes a huge difference. Now then, the non-polarized, you can see you've still got that reflection, colors are still enhanced a pretty good bit. Overall, still looks pretty darn good. And back to, now that you know exactly what spot you're supposed to be looking at, the polarized. Now the camera doesn't really focus well through this, and here is, there you go, polarization off, polarization on. So the angle of the lenses actually makes a difference. As I mentioned earlier on, as you get that on a different angle, it doesn't cut the glare down. What I like to show here really, because the difference we care about is glare out in the real world. And as I mentioned a minute ago, it's just not there as much. Even looking through this window, you'll see with both lenses, there's not much of a difference. Like my reflection on the window, you know, both lenses cut that down pretty equally versus that. So there you go. Now I know I'm not a huge fan of polarized. I've said it a million times. You guys are probably sick of hearing me say it because a lot of people are fans of nothing but polarized lenses. I think a lot of that's been marketed into place, and some people just prefer it. You know, our brains and eyes all have different preferences. But as it always goes, I like to know what your preferences are. So let me know what your thoughts are on this video in particular, but polarized lenses versus non-polarized. And if you made it this far, you'll definitely want to follow along with us. So like and subscribe, ring the bell, all that good stuff so you can keep up to date on the latest. We always talk about cool new frames like this, different lens technologies, and I love hearing your feedback about suggestions for future videos or any questions you may have about this video. So definitely drop some feedback in the comments. Let me know your thoughts on that. If you like the Saratoga sunglasses, I'll have a link for those down below from my shop. Always appreciate when you guys get it from me. Not a huge deal, but I do appreciate it. It helps fuel this channel, so let's keep that going. I'll catch you guys next time.